Ever feel like you're surrounded by wealth, but can't quite figure out, uh, how to grab a piece of it yourself? Like everyone else has this secret playbook they're following, and you're just kind of, winging it. Well, buckle up, because today we're taking a deep dive into a book that claims to have some answers, but with a twist. It's all set in ancient Babylon. That's right, we're talking about The Richest Man in Babylon by George S. Clason. Don't let the old-timey setting fool you instead. This book is packed with timeless financial wisdom, all wrapped up in these really engaging parables. Now, the book starts by throwing you right into the heart of Babylon, and it paints this vivid picture of what made the city tick. Because Babylon was like the Wall Street of the ancient world. It was the place to be if you wanted to make serious money. But here's the thing. Babylon wasn't built on some giant oil field or gold mine. It was smack dab in the middle of a pretty harsh desert. So how did they become so incredibly wealthy? Well, the Babylonians, they were seriously resourceful. They engineered this massive irrigation system, like a network of canals and dams that channeled water from the Euphrates River. They basically turned this arid wasteland into this lush, fertile valley. Talk about a real estate glow-up, right? And this whole idea of transforming something barren into something abundant, it really sets the stage for the book's central theme, that wealth isn't something you're just born with. It's something you build step by step through smart decisions and consistent effort. And speaking of building wealth, let me introduce you to our main man, Arkad, the, you guessed it, richest man in Babylon. Now, Arkad didn't just win the lottery or inherit a fortune from some long-lost relative. He started out as a humble scribe, basically a record keeper. And through hard work, determination, and most importantly by understanding and applying certain financial principles, he rose to become one of the wealthiest men in the world. It's like that saying, it's not about how much money you make, it's about how much money you keep. And Arkad, he was a master at keeping and growing his money. And how did he do it? Well, the book lays out his wisdom in two main sections. The 7 cures for a lean purse and the 5 laws of gold. Think of these as like Arkad's greatest hits, his financial wisdom distilled into bite-sized pieces. So let's start by cracking open the 7 cures. The first one is pretty straightforward. Start thy purse to fattening. In other words, save at least 10% of your earnings. Now I know what you're thinking, saving money, that sounds about as fun as a root canal. But trust me, there's something really powerful about watching your savings grow. It's like building a financial fortress brick by brick. And I remember this one time back when I was just starting out in my career. I was like totally broke, living paycheck to paycheck, barely scraping by. But then I read The Richest Man in Babylon, and it really inspired me to start taking my finances seriously. So I decided to try that whole start thy purse to fattening thing. I started by setting aside just 5% of my income each month. It wasn't easy at first. I had to cut back on some of my, let's call them non-essential expenses, like maybe skipping that daily latte or packing my lunch instead of eating out. But you know what? After a few months, I started to see my savings account balance growing. And it was this amazing feeling. It was like planting a seed and watching it sprout. And that small act of saving it really set me on the path to financial stability. All right, moving on to cure number 2, control thy expenditures. In other words, create a budget and stick to it. Now, I know budgeting can sound about as exciting as watching paint dry, but it's honestly one of the most important things you can do to get your finances in order. Because a budget is like a roadmap for your money. It helps you track where your money is going and make sure you're spending it on the things that are truly important to you. And it doesn't have to be this super complicated spreadsheet with a million different categories, It can be as simple as writing down your income and expenses in a notebook. The key is to be honest with yourself about your spending habits and make conscious choices about where your money goes. Because let's face it, we all have those financial leaks, those little expenses that drain our bank accounts without us even realizing it. Like that subscription box you signed up for and totally forgot about, or those impulse buys at the grocery store checkout line. I'm definitely guilty of this too. And I used to spend way too much money on takeout coffee. It was like a daily ritual. Grab a latte on the way to work, another one in the afternoon, maybe even the third one after dinner, and it all added up. Like I was basically funding a small coffee plantation with my caffeine addiction. But once I started tracking my expenses, I realized just how much money I was wasting on coffee. So I decided to kick my takeout coffee habit, and I started making my own coffee at home. And you know what? Not only did I save a ton of money, but I actually started to enjoy the ritual of brewing my own coffee, like grinding the beans, experimenting with different brewing methods, even like getting all fancy with latte art. It became this like meditative experience. So controlling your expenditures, it's not about depriving yourself. It's about being mindful of your spending and making choices that align with your financial goals. Now, cure number 3 is where things start to get really interesting. Make thy gold multiply. And this is all about investing your savings wisely to generate passive income, like planting seeds that will grow into a whole forest of wealth. And one of the key principles here is the power of compound interest. Basically, it's like interest earning interest. It's this magical snowball effect where your money grows exponentially over time. And I used to think that investing was only for like Wall Street tycoons and people with tons of money. But the richest man in Babylon really opened my eyes to the fact that anyone can invest, even if you're starting with a small amount. I remember when I first started investing, I was so nervous. I didn't know anything about stocks or bonds or mutual funds. But I did my research, I talked to some financial advisors, and I started small. I opened a Roth IRA and started contributing a small amount each month. And it wasn't always smooth sailing. The market went up and down, and sometimes I felt like I was losing money. But I stuck with it, and over time I started to see my investments grow. And it's been amazing to watch that little snowball of wealth get bigger and bigger. It's like a constant reminder that even small, consistent investments can lead to big rewards in the long run. All right, cure number 4 is all about protecting your hard-earned cash. Guard thy treasures from loss. And this is where Clason really warns against falling for get-rich-quick schemes and emphasizes the importance of doing your due diligence before investing in anything. Because let's face it, there are a lot of shady characters out there who are always trying to separate you from your money. And I definitely fallen prey to a few of these myself. Like that one time I invested in this guaranteed real estate deal that turned out to be a total scam, and I learned that lesson the hard way. But the key takeaway here is that you should never invest in something you don't understand. Always do your research, ask questions, and seek advice from trusted financial professionals. Don't just blindly trust someone because they sound confident or have a fancy title you know. And cure number 5 might seem a little out of place at first. Make of thy dwelling a profitable investment. Basically, own your own home. Now, back in ancient Babylon, owning your own home was a huge symbol of stability and prosperity. And while the real estate market might look a little different today, the underlying principle still holds true. Owning a home can be a great way to build wealth over time, especially if you think about it as a long-term investment. Because when you pay rent, you're basically throwing money away each month. When you pay a mortgage, you're building equity in your home. And over time, as you pay down your mortgage and the value of your home, hopefully appreciates your building wealth. Now, I know buying a home can be a daunting process, especially in today's market. It's a big financial commitment, and it's not something to take lightly. But if you do your research plan carefully and work with a reputable lender and real estate agent, owning a home can be a really rewarding experience. And for me personally, owning a home has been this symbol of stability and security. It's like having a place where I can truly put down roots and build a life for myself. And it's definitely been one of the best financial decisions I've ever made. All right, we've covered a lot of ground already, so let's take a quick breather before we dive into the next two cures, because up next we're talking about planning for the future and investing in yourself. And these are two areas that are so important for building long-term wealth and happiness. So stay tuned and we'll be right back after this short break. All right, so we've talked about saving, budgeting, investing, and even the wisdom of owning your own home, right? But the richest man in Babylon, it doesn't stop there. It goes even deeper, exploring these almost philosophical ideas about wealth and prosperity. Like, one of the things that really struck me was this idea of creating a future income. It's like, how do you ensure that the money keeps flowing even when you're not actively working? Back in ancient Babylon, they didn't have 401ks or IRAs, right? But they had their own ways of planning for the long haul. One way was through investing in land or property, which would generate rental income. It's like setting up this stream of passive income that would keep flowing even if you were like too old to work or something. They also had this concept of lending money at interest, which, is kind of like the ancient Babylonian version of a savings account. And it's funny because these ideas, they're not that different from what we do today, right? We might have fancier names for them, but the fundamental principle is the same. You put money aside, you invest it wisely, and you create a source of income that will sustain you in your later years. And it's not just about being comfortable in retirement, It's also about leaving a legacy for your children and grandchildren. It's about giving them a head start in life and teaching them the importance of financial responsibility. I remember when I was a kid, money was kind of this taboo subject in our house. We didn't really talk about it much, but I think that just made it more mysterious and honestly a little scary. Now that I'm a parent, I'm trying to do things differently. I want my kids to understand how money works, how to manage it responsibly, and how to use it to create the life they want. And The Richest Man in Babylon has actually been a great resource for me in this, The stories are engaging, the principles are timeless, and it sparks some really interesting conversations with my kids about saving, budgeting, investing, and like the dangers of those get-rich-quick schemes you see all over the internet. It's never too early to start teaching kids about money right. I mean, I wish someone had sat me down when I was younger and explained things like compound interest and the importance of investing early. It would have saved me a lot of financial fumbles in my 20s. But hey, better late than never, right? And that brings us to cure number 6, which is all about planning for the future and making sure your family's taken care of, even if you know something happens to you. And Clason actually just had some pretty revolutionary ideas here, considering this book was written almost 100 years ago. Like, you talked about this concept of insurance, which was like a totally new thing back then. He imagined a system where a group of people would contribute to a pool of money, and then that money would be paid out to the families of those who, passed away. It's basically like the ancient Babylonian version of life insurance. And what's fascinating is that this idea has totally stood the test of time, right? We still use insurance today to protect our families and loved ones from financial hardship. So even though the specifics might have changed over time, the fundamental principle of planning for the future, it's timeless. And finally, we come to cure number 7, which is all about investing in yourself. Increase thy ability to earn. And it's when it really hits home for me because it's all about constantly learning, growing, and expanding your skill set. It's like that old saying, the more you learn, the more you earn. And I've definitely seen the power of this in my own life. Like a few years back, I decided to take this online course in digital marketing. It was a bit of a stretch financially, but I was determined to learn something new and expand my skill set. And you know what? That one decision completely changed my career trajectory. I ended up landing a new job with a significant salary increase, and it all started because I was willing to invest in myself. So the takeaway here is clear. Never stop learning, never stop growing, and never underestimate the power of investing in your own potential. Now, we've covered a lot of ground here with the 7 cures for a lean purse, but there's still so much more to unpack in The Richest Man in Babylon. Up next, we're diving into the 5 laws of gold, which are like Arcad's ultimate secrets to building wealth and prosperity. So stay tuned, because things are about to get really interesting. All right, so we talked about the 7 cures for a lean purse. We delved into the 5 laws of gold, and we've even explored those personal clay tablets, right? You know, the ones that give us a glimpse into the day-to-day struggles and triumphs of someone trying to apply those principles. But there's one more juicy layer to this book that I want to unpack, and it's all about mindset. Because The Richest Man in Babylon isn't just a financial how-to guide, you know. It's also like a masterclass in cultivating the right attitude for success. And this is something that's often overlooked, you know. We get so caught up in the mechanics of money saving, budget, and investing that we forget about the importance of our thoughts and beliefs. But Clason makes it clear that your mindset is just as important as any financial strategy. He emphasizes things like self-belief, determination, perseverance, and even a bit of luck, but not the kind of luck you find at the casino or by like finding a $20 bill on the sidewalk, you know. It's the kind of luck that comes from being prepared, from taking action, from putting yourself out there and creating opportunities. Like, remember that story about the camel trader who missed out on a great deal because he hesitated? Well, Clason uses that story to illustrate the point that good luck often comes disguised as hard work and decisiveness. You got to be ready to seize the moment, you know. You can't just sit around waiting for something good to happen. You got to make it happen. And another powerful message that comes through is this idea that wealth is a magnet. The more you focus on it, the more you attract it. But it's not about being greedy or materialistic. It's about having a healthy respect for money and understanding its power to create a better life for yourself and others. You know, I used to have this almost like a negative association with money. I thought it was this dirty, corrupting force. But as I started to learn more about finances, I realized that money itself isn't good or bad. It's just a tool. And like any tool, it can be used for good or for evil. And The Richest Man in Babylon really encourages you to use money for good, to build a life of purpose and meaning, to help others, to make a positive impact on the world. And that's what's so inspiring about this book. It's not just about accumulating wealth for its own sake. It's about using wealth as a means to achieve something greater, to live a life that's rich in experiences, relationships, and contributions. One of my favorite quotes from the book is this: "Wealth is not in the coins a man carries in his purse. It is the income he buildeth, the golden stream that continually floweth into his purse, and keepeth it always bulgin'." It's not about hitting the lottery jackpot and then blowing it all on frivolous things. It's about building a system that generates wealth consistently so you can enjoy financial security and freedom for years to come. And honestly, that's something that's within reach of everyone. Doesn't matter where you're starting from, whether you're in debt, living paycheck to paycheck, or already have some savings. The Richest Man in Babylon provides this timeless roadmap to financial success. And it all starts with adopting the right mindset. So I want to leave you with this question. What's one small step you can take today to start applying the principles we've discussed? Could it be setting aside 10% of your income? Creating a budget? Seeking advice from a financial mentor? Investing in your education? Whatever it is, take action. Don't let procrastination hold you back, because the journey to financial freedom starts with a single step. And who knows, maybe one day you'll be the one sharing your wisdom and inspiring others to build their own golden streams of wealth. That's all for today's deep dive into The Richest Man in Babylon. I hope you found it insightful and maybe even a little bit life-changing. Remember, these principles aren't just ancient Babylonian secrets, they're timeless truths that can empower anyone to achieve financial success and create a life of abundance and purpose. So go forth, apply what you've learned, and start building your own path to prosperity. Until next time, happy investing. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, like, comment, and share. Until then, drive safely and keep learning. I'll catch you on our next deep dive.